So just like with anything else, there's not always sunshine and rainbows when it comes to comic book collecting. There are so many great things about being a part of the comic book community and enjoying this hobby, but there are some downfalls. Even with those downfalls though, there are still some shining aspects to them. So I'm going to talk about 5 downfalls to collecting comic books. Number 1, it can be addicting. Just throwing that out there. Anyone who collects comic books will probably tell you the exact same thing. It is a very addicting hobby. It is something that you can come into brand new, and if it's something that grabs you, it grabs you quick and it holds on tight. And it's something that can just constantly be something you're always thinking about, looking for the next thing, trying to put together a run, trying to collect a certain character. And it can really just be a driving force behind a big addiction when it comes to comic books. So that's one downfall. Number 2, there's such a broad range when it comes to comic books, and it seems like it's never ending. Like you can never be done with something. There's no way. I don't care if you're collecting X-Men or Avengers or Captain America, Spider-Man. It just seems like it is a never-ending thing, whether it be different series, different volumes, different characters that you want to collect inside of a certain run or title. It is just such a broad range of things inside of comic books. And then the things that they actually made comic books about, some of it would blow your mind. If you can think of it, pretty sure they made a comic book about it at some point. I mean, we have Marvel Comics cone heads in comic books, okay? So anything is possible at that point, all right? I mean, it is crazy to think about, but and it just covers such a broad range of things that there's just really no way you can ever feel like you're done. Once you get that, what you think is the last one, it seems like something else is just right around the corner, and you're like, man, I need that next. I need that to be finished. And you get that, and then something else pops up. So it's just a never-ending collecting addiction. So we can wrap 1 and 2 up right there together with one big downfall, I guess. Number 3, it can be expensive. Unless you're just going to stay a dollar bin diver for life and never jump out of that aspect of comic book collecting, which honestly isn't a bad idea. It can get really expensive when you start looking for certain runs, certain characters, certain keys, whether you're collecting Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze, even modern now. I mean, there are very, very, very expensive aspects to every bit of it. Every bit of it. Unless you're just someone who says, you know what? I'm never going to buy anything outside of what's in the dollar bins or the 50-cent bins. If you stay in that realm, you're going to be good to go. You're going to be good to go. But I challenge anyone that is a comic book collector to tell me that's where you stay all the time. Never buy anything else. It's so hard. It is so hard because even if you start there, you start to develop interest in certain things, and that's going to pique interest over here, and the next thing you know, you're looking for this book, and it might start out with $10 buys and then move up to a $30 buy. Next thing you know, you're buying $100. Next thing you know, you're like me, and you went from thinking it was crazy to spend $100 on a comic book 2 years ago, and now you're spending thousands of dollars on one book. It can get so expensive, but it's a part of it, and it's got to be something you're willing to budget so you don't lose control, because that's also something that is very easy to do if you're not careful, because it does go back to my first point with the addiction part. I mean, when you get addicted to this and you feel like you need that book and you're willing to just blow the budget on it, it can get very expensive. Number 4, scalpers. When it comes to new comic book day, scalpers are something that is a big downfall for comic books, because it's gotten to the point now where unless you pre-order everything every week on your pull list, you're going to take a big chance of not being able to read something. If something catches fire, if something gets out that this was a big spec book or a great read even, people are going to be grabbing those, in stacks off of the shelves, because not everybody works during the day or on Wednesdays, and waits to get to the shop at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, like me and Nick. Some people are at the shop 10 o'clock ready to buy everything on the shelf every week. And, you know, of course, there are people that are going to say, well, you can go read it digitally if you just want the story. Yes, because God forbid a brand new collector not understand how the pull list and all that things work, hears about a book from someone and say, oh man, you should definitely check this out, and want to actually have a physical copy of the book to read. That would just be horrible, wouldn't it? Because you wanted to grab a stack of 30 books off the shelf. Well, if you wanted 30 of them, you could have pre-ordered those yourself too. So that would be my answer to that. And that may sound a little rude, but you know what? I get so sick of hearing that you could just read it digitally if it's just about the story. You know what? You're true. Yeah, that's right. That's definitely true. But you could also pre-order 35 copies of that instead of going to the shop and pulling them off the shelf. Now, I could go on that for a long time, but you know, it is definitely a downfall to this hobby, especially if you're just cutting your teeth on comic books and getting into it and you don't understand how the pull list works and things like that. That is something that can really, really get aggravating, because you could be looking for a book every week and not understand what is going on. Why can I not ever find the books that I hear everybody talking about? So that's definitely a downfall. And number 5, if you're like me, comic books can become very time consuming. And I mean in several different aspects. Trying to keep up with all the reading can be very time consuming, especially if you're someone who likes to read all the stuff that comes out on New Comic Book Day. I know at one point I had so much stuff on my pull list, it was just crazy for me to be able to try to read everything I was picking up every week. And by the time the next week came around, I still had 5 or 10 books I didn't read from the week before. And you just get so backed up and behind, and next thing you know, you just have a short box or even a long box full of New Comic Book Day books that you haven't been able to read yet because you don't have the time. And not only that, it can become something that, again, the addiction part, that really just keeps coming back. I mean, and is it really a downfall? Maybe, yeah, it could be considered that, but I think other than, you know, when it comes to all the things in the world you can become addicted to, comic books isn't that bad. But when you get so engulfed in comic books, your entire life can be, the time 24/7 can be consumed with hunting down that key, watching eBay looking for certain books, going to shops every single day, trying to hunt down this book or that book, or looking for this spec book, trying to keep up with what's going on with the spec books, you know, trying to keep up with what movies are coming out, who's getting cast, what rumors are being talked about for this movie and that TV show, so you can make sure that you go grab these books and how much you should be paying for them. And you want to find this new key that came out, but where are you going to get it from? So you're going around looking at all the shops, calling out of work. It can become very, very time consuming as well. I know I had to check myself not too long ago, sometime last year, and just step back and say, whoa, this is crazy. I'm at dinner, I'm scrolling through eBay, keeping an eye on books, looking on Go Collect, trying to make sure I'm not paying too much, watching Instagram live sales, watching YouTube live sales, watching Facebook live sales, flipping through the Facebook groups. It can definitely get time consuming if you don't keep yourself and keep your hobby in check. Now, all that to say, comic book collecting is a fantastic hobby. It is something that you just absolutely are guaranteed to love once you find your niche inside of the comic book collecting. Because there's, like I said, there's so much involved. There's so many characters, so many stories to be told. There's gonna be something there for everybody. Everybody. If I could get into comic books, I'm telling you, anybody could. If I can get into it, anybody can find something that they want out of comic books. Now, this wasn't something that I wanted to talk about to try to make people not want to have anything to do with the hobby. This wasn't to push anybody or scare anybody. It was just a video topic idea to get people talking, because I'd love to hear you guys' input on the 5 topics I talked about today. Now, of course, we are gonna do a 5 wonderful, awesome things about comic book collecting as well. I would love for you guys to drop comments. Let me know what are some of the things that are the most difficult, or, you know, the things that you think just, you know, really bite with comic book collecting. And then what are some of your favorite things? Do you agree with what I said today, or do you disagree? Make sure you let us know in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Make sure you're subscribed if you haven't. And always, guys, collect your way.